Dr. Bryant.
We're live.
Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Give praises to Jehovah, from whom all blessing and knowledge will flow. Blessing and knowledge will flow. The Village Talk Show, dedicating to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially capable life, helping each one of us in realizing our dream at any age, any point, starting from today, day. Success. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. Come on to learn and grow. Welcome to the Village Talk Show. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. We discuss what people need to know, empowering them to learn and grow. Success is not spoken, it is done. Success is done. Come on now. The Village Talk Show. Talk Show. The Village Talk Show.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are having a wonderful Thursday. Good evening, Mr. Sampson. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Dr. Bryant. It's always a pleasure to be here with you on Thursday night on The Village. And I see that our host is not present. Have a good session this evening.
Hey, Roderick. Hey, Mr.
Oh,
Dick.
did I
How
speak too
are you?
soon? I spoke too soon. Hey, Roger, how you doing? I'm glad you made it tonight.
I'm doing a U, John. As you can see, I'm in the car, driving and getting chauffeured while I'm using the
I'm not
computer.
getting chauffeured.
John, see, I've learned that if you use the computer, it's better than using the phone. So I'm using the hotspot. However, you have the problem with the hotspot that you might not have full Wi-Fi. So
Right.
good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Um, Hopefully, everybody's enjoying themselves. I just want to let you know that you're watching, viewing, sharing, participating on the Village Radio Talk Show, where we're dedicated to empowering the community to live a healthy, safe, and financially stable life through education. Often each one of us in realizing our dreams at any age or any point, starting from where success is not just spoken, done. What are you doing to be successful? So, John, what are you doing to be successful today?
What I'm doing to be successful is, I guess, making sure I continue to learn, to be a better Christian, to be a better human being overall, and to be more humble and kind. But however, still kick ass when I need to.
I like that. What about you, Dr. Brian?
I am.
You're going to say move on?
What happened?
You're going to say move on?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, all right.
Don't
Good.
put words in my mouth. Okay. We're going to start something early. Good evening, everyone. What am I doing? I'm staying healthy. That's important. Health is
Amen.
wealth.
Amen. So
And
true, Dr. Brian. So true.
people, if there are little signs, if your body is letting you know, hey, certain signs, and I have a headache for 3 weeks, or hey, I noticed such and such, it is a warning sign for you to get to your doctor, because later on you will pay the price. You can take care of the minor things in advance, and then later on you're good, or you could suffer later on. So don't take minor issues, pains, dinks, and things for granted, because it'll be more painful later. That's all.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Before we get John,
Point well taken, Dr. Bennett.
make sure we say hello to our villagers out there, because they all make
Absolutely.
the show happen, make everything that we do happen. So hello, all the villagers who have tuned in, to tune in today, right? That tune in today to join us.
Thank you
So
for
let's
joining
get
us.
to it, man. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it.
What if things happening, John? That you know, what's on your mind first, John? Let's start with you. What's on your mind first?
You know what's on my mind is the constant, just constant disregard and disrespect people have for one another. I'm looking
Mhm.
at, crime is going down, but it's the same. The incidents. What irks me is the young man on the scooter shooting and killing an 87-year-old man. I mean, in broad daylight. Where is the respect that we used to have for our elders, or just respect that we used to
Did you
have
say
for
did you say 87-year-old?
87 years
87
old?
in Queens. He got shot last week, the end of last week, the beginning, and also this week. The kids who were in the park, the 3-year-old, the 7-year-old who were in the park, the people in the park, and the same scooter. You have one jokester, you have to have a copycat doing the
And
same
these
thing.
damn scooters all over the place. Not abiding by the rules of the road, not
One
abiding
of
by
them
the
ran.
rules of the road. It's just
One
insane.
of them. One of them ran into the side of my car, right?
And they
And
don't have no insurance either.
and he, I pull over and he's like, "Oh, you need to come to my father's body shop on Dickinson 86, right?" And um, and like you're in the middle of the street, so everybody's honking you. It happened right by footprints. This is the second time I had an
Right.
accident right by footprints, right? So right at the Avenue D there, he's going down the wrong way on the street on Avenue D, going towards, from Nazareth going towards Avenue D. So he's going the wrong way.
Right.
That little chump rode off and he rode down. So I'm following him because he's riding
Oh
off.
Lord, road rage.
No, 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 not road rage. He stopped. He stopped initially, had a conversation. My father has the mechanic shop at 8613, you know, whatever, right? And I'm gonna go over there. I'm like, yo, dude, you need to give me some kind of ID, some kind of something. I don't know you, whatever the case is, right? Because obviously they have no license. There's no license plate. There's no nothing. There's nothing to follow up on. So you need to give me some info. And some
Right.
guy behind me doesn't realize the magnitude of the situation. So, so he's yelling at me saying, "Get out of the road! Get out of the road!" So I got in my car to move the car over. He got on the scooter and he started riding off because remember he told me about this address. So he's riding off going to the address, or what seems to be like going to the address. And that little chump drove around and he hit East 59th Street, which is a one-way going toward Beverly, and he turned up the runway and sped off. When I
So you were
explained,
gonna catch up. You thought you were gonna catch up with him?
I told my wife I'm not going to chase him down a one-way street because if
That.
anything was to happen going down the one-way street, one, I'm not supposed to be chasing him. That's one. And then two, if anything were to happen, I'm liable.
Right.
But I'll say this: kudos to you that, in spite of somebody hitting your car or whatever, that you didn't go the extra mile like the guy yesterday who, you know, I think it was yesterday, this morning, between yesterday and this morning, the gentleman who ran into another one, cars, you're gonna have accidents left and right. But then when you get out your car and start stabbing somebody's tires, that's when you have lost your mind. And unfortunately, the man had his kids, his 3 kids, and his wife in the car, and somebody stabbing your tires, you're going to react. And unfortunately, the reaction he had when the guy got in front of his car is step on the gas and he goes through the window. He's, of course, dead. But I don't know how I feel about this one. I think he was out of order.
Hold on. Dr. Bryant, let's rewind to the subway incident.
Wait, John, let's walk away. John, let's walk away.
No, let's rewind to the subway incident.
What subway incident?
With yes.
No. Here's the thing, it's different.
Oh, why is it different? Hold on, Dr. Bryant, let me finish now.
Nope.
He's in the car.
And the guy
he
came
can lock his doors, and the guy stabbed the tires.
His tires.
Hold on, Dr. Bryant, but he is in the vehicle. He is in shelter, Dr. Bryant.
With a knife, with his children in the car.
Dr. Bryant, but you know what? He stabs his vehicle. Doesn't mean that he still could have, like he did. He got into the car and he ran the man over.
He could have broke the glass.
Do you think that was excessive? Wasn't that excessive, Dr. Bryant?
What, running? Just stepping on the gas? That was a reflex. Yes. It wasn't excessive because it was a reflex.
So hold on. But it's not excessive? To step on one thing to step on the gas and run them over.
Well, you don't know
or just step on the gas or tap the gas, Dr. Bryant.
You don't know if he was fully parked. You don't know if he was fully parked. He could have been still in drive mode. And when he saw him go in the front, that could have been the reaction.
So, Dr. Bryant, it's the same thing with the subway. It was his reaction. He thought the guy was, So, Dr. Bryant, I'm just saying.
There was no action. There was no action.
Oh, there was no action, but there was the action was he stabbed the tires. However,
who got killed? Stabbed the tires?
The guy who stabbed the tires. He ran him over.
Yeah, of course.
Who ran him over? The owner of the car that stabbed the guy stabbed the tires?
Yes.
That he was stabbing his car.
I would have ran him over too.
So
I would have ran him over because I don't know what's the next thing.
I don't know how it act,
I again, remember.
So hold on. But Roderick, he was in his car. The windows were up. He just stabbed the tires. There was no gun. This was a knife.
When his baby's in the car.
Do you know that knives kill to get stabbed with a knife?
I know that, but the whole point was he was in the vehicle, windows rolled up.
Wait, if he's crazy enough to get out his car to come stab his other tires and then going around the corner with his kids and his wife, you don't know how crazy he is. Like the guy who jumped out of the Uber, jumped over the FDR, who was stabbing the Uber driver. You don't know what people are.
So, Dr. Bryant, so you don't know. So it's the same thing as if that gentleman on the subway was saying, I don't care if I go to jail. I don't care if I kill people.
No. There was a physical attack. Speaking and physical, that's different. When you say
so do we wait for the physical or do we preempt it, Dr. Bryant? I'm just saying.
He has already shown.
Physical, and then you have, self-defense.
Your self-defense can be defending property too, but that's why you have a gun at your house, right? So it's easier to get a gun to protect your house.
Wait for the physical.
Right.
So Dr. Bryant, Roger and Dr. Bryant, so what is the difference between that scenario and the one where the woman was banging on the woman's door in Florida and the woman shot her through the door? What's the difference?
The difference is she was behind closed doors.
Hold on. Is this guy was in the car?
No, but he's not behind closed doors.
But hold on. You're in your vehicle, a steel vehicle with windows up.
Okay, so there's a major difference, right?
Yeah.
A couple of differences. One, the person has extolled the anger by physically attacking his car. That means that he's now immobile. He
With the
can't move,
weapon. With the weapon.
right? He can't
Hmm.
move, right? So if your cars are if your car is damaged and your tires can go, you can't move.
But but
The
but but
woman,
but he
wait,
moved
wait,
enough. He
hold
moved
on,
enough to run him
hold
over.
on. The woman in Florida was banging on the door. She didn't break the window. She didn't, right? She didn't make an attempt to borrow through the
How do
door.
we know? How do we know she couldn't have came through the door
Again,
and
the
attacked
door was
me?
locked. The door was locked. The door,
The car doors. So his car doors were
and not
locked.
to
But the
mention the
lady
woman,
actually came out the car. She did come
right?
out the car. The
The
wife did.
woman in the house could have gotten a knife or something to protect herself and have some level of protection. The guy in the car is angry. He could throw a brick. You're right.
Exactly.
He didn't
But
do anything. Right.
but
He didn't do
my host and co-host.
Yes.
However, if he had enough, if he could move his car, so why couldn't he just simply drive away?
Oh, he could have, but the man was in the way.
Oh
So
no
that's
no no
why
no no. He
he was
could have
in the way.
he could have reversed.
Oh, what with the flat tire? With flat
Hold on,
tire,
but he was able to move forward with the flat tire. My co-host.
you
But how
know.
far could he go? How far could he
I'm
go?
just saying.
And you know
I'm just
something?
saying.
No wait, a
That's
knife
all I'm
one.
saying.
You don't know what other weapon he has, and he has his kids in the car. So the thing
I
is,
love it. I love it. I
a
love
I,
knife.
it.
I hear, but you know what though, Dr. Sampson, right? I, Dr.
That is
Sampson,
true, Chuck. He is speaking like the lawyer that he is, right?
right? Um, there is a thin line, right? There's a very thin line, right, that you can look at in all of these three situations that you bring up: train
Correct.
station, the Florida, and now this situation, and also one of her guests, one of her, um, um,
Our guest is
Chuck,
here.
Chuck, right? Chuck Mohan Mohan brought up a good point.
Chuck, what's up, Chuck? Thanks
Remind
for.
us about uh, the West Side Highway a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
as well, right? Where the motorist would started beating on the man's car, and you know, I think this is about probably about 10 years ago that situation happened. When a group of them got together and they started attacking the car, right? Um, and eventually dragged the motorist out of the car. If I remember correctly, dragged the motorist out of the car and beat him to death, right? So the question obviously becomes, right? The question
What's the mm,
obviously becomes, what is the outcome? He doesn't know the outcome.
Every situation is different.
that is
Exactly.
that
And
is
in this particular situation, I'm with my children, I'm with my family. This person has expressed road rage. And again, I go back to something that I always say. The
the what?
the media
Hmm.
affects and
I don't think it's the media. I think overall this was stunning. Someone driving, having road rage, stopping their car to come and attack the gall. You know, the
I
person
don't
must,
know what that person you don't know anymore. You
which is
don't.
you don't know who's crazy, who's not. You don't
No,
know.
I don't like to use the word crazy, but
I
you're
use the
right.
word crazy because the fact that they
Um,
came out with the knife, they are crazy.
well, everybody's
So,
crazy, so that's not. I wouldn't say it is, but it's their anger threshold. I probably would
yeah,
say.
which is true.
Right?
Thank you, listeners, for actually commenting in the chat. We appreciate all of your comments. And I know that our guest is here. Empress said, right on, John. Our guest is here, and I know that.
Thank you, Empress. Thank you, Empress. Thank you.
Where's our
Well,
guest?
nobody's disagreeing with you, John. I just said that you got to look at each case. Well, you know what? Let's ask the Empress before we ask the guest. Empress, the person slashing your tires and your two children are in the car. When they were the two children, even now, what do you do? Remember now, the tires are slashed, so you can't drive off. What do you
Who
do?
said you can't drive off, Roderick? Who said you
Where
can't
you
drive off a flat
where you going,
tire?
dude?
You
Where you
ride
going?
on the rims. That's
You
it.
ride
And
on the rims, my brother.
and he came out of his car and he came out of his car.
Who came out of his car? The one
Yeah,
who died?
yeah, and that means that he can't run me down. Empress, what would you do? And with that being said, we're bringing on Stop the Violence advocate. This is a perfect segue into our guest.
I think he came.
Andre, can you bring up a commercial first before we bring the guest on? Ladies and gentlemen, so thank you for watching The Village. The Village is sponsored by the World Domino Federation Domino Weekend Extravaganza. I know that some of you probably had gotten that message about all the crazy Jamaicans banging on the table. So that weekend you can come on and see some of them live and direct. At 1330 Utica Avenue. Friday night is a fish fry party, get together, and a team tournament. Right, and a team tournament. Saturday, there's a random pier where you'll be set up. You come in, and then on Sunday is the mental bring your partner pier. So come out, contact us at info@worlddominoes.com or check out the website at www.worlddominoes.com. Dominoes is spelled the British way with an ES. Contact Rudy at 646-504-5778. Sniper at 929-413-0423. Or Tony 917-823-5274. And Dawn at 203
545 0764.
Was that 67? Can't see that.
203-545-0764.
Thank you. And hopefully to see you that weekend, August 11th through the 13th, right here in New York City, 1330 Utica Avenue. Come show your stuff or just come play for fun.
Thank you, Monet and Empress. Drive for our lives. Ride
him. Monet said ride him over. hey, Geoffrey, I thought you were coming to the studio. I'm jumping to the studio trying to get you.
No, they said to call.
Okay,
they said to call in.
Yeah, no, I was
gonna come to the studio.
I know they told me. So
right. They said to call in.
Yeah. So 3 of us are in the car and somebody's in their plush apartment, as you can see in the background.
You better believe it. Johnny boy.
Yeah. So how you doing?
Well, first of all,
doing great, brother.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yes, my name is Geoffrey Davis. I'm the executive director of the James E. Davis Stop Violence Foundation here in Brooklyn, New York. Primarily, my office is in the Crown Heights area at the Major R. Owens Health and Wellness Center, which is located at 1561 Bedford Avenue. It's a recreation center, newly renovated recreation center, roughly a year and a half old. And that's where my office is. And we address violence in many different ways, many different capacities over the last 30 years. My brother was the councilman in the area, councilman of the 35th Council District. Councilman James E. Davis and I formed the Love Yourself, Stop the Violence organization some 30 years ago. My brother was assassinated inside New York City Hall next week, 20 years ago, July 23rd.
Wow.
20 years ago. So what we did was, to honor him, we changed the name of the organization to honor him and named it after him. So initially, the organization was called Love Yourself, Stop the Violence. Then we honored my brother by changing it to the James E. Davis Stop Violence Foundation. And that's the intro. That's the history. That's the beginning. And we'll go from there.
Love it.
While you're at it, Mr. Davis, did you give the email? I didn't hear if you had given the email address to contact us.
The email to reach me?
Yes.
Oh, sure. James E. Davis Foundation at gmail.org, .com. James E. Davis Foundation at gmail.com.
All right, perfect. So let's go back. And I know 20 years the wound doesn't heal. Clearly, your brother James, who I met, somebody I was getting to know, right? I was getting to know back in 2002 when he took office, and unfortunately, one of those persons that went to the funeral, um, you know, and I remember him very vividly, right? Great guy, an infectious smile, you know, and very passionate about the community.
Thank you.
I think you froze.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I absolutely can.
Yeah,
Um,
Roger froze. Okay, go ahead. Me and you. Oh,
okay.
you back.
Did you hear the last thing I said?
Nope, you froze. We were about to go.
Infectious
Okay, I
smile.
was saying
Thank you.
that I met your brother more than 20 years ago. Obviously, if the 20th anniversary is coming, and I was saying that he had that infectious smile. Like when you saw James,
Hmm.
he had this big grin with his little mustache, his black, what do you call that? What do you call those hairdos? The jersey, like not a
Wave.
high, but a fade, right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this smile, right? The smile right in front of your face, like, hey Rudy, hey Roderick, and that's the smile in his face,
Sure.
going back over 20 years, right? Um, and we're getting to know each other, and to see him gunned down. Let the audience know a little bit about your brother. Tell them about your brother. What was he like growing up? What type of person was he? He was a police officer. Tell us a little bit about himself. About him.
Sure. Initially, big brother is 17 months older than me, so we lived together our entire lives. His family name, the nickname, was Rocky. So the community knew him as James E. Davis or James, but the family knows him as Rocky. Um, um, Very close to Brooklyn, raised in Long Island, Roosevelt, New York, and Brooklyn. Um,
Tell him he played football with us too, at Tilden.
I'm Johnny, but I'm getting there. Tilden High School, they play football. Tilden Blue Devils with John on the football team. An athlete, football, baseball. He was an athlete. He enjoyed sports. In Tilden High School, he was on the football team. He got a
What,
scholarship to American International College. Always had dreams connected to politics. And in high school, he also took up political science to stay in touch with what's going on politically. Attended American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts, and then transferred there and went to Pace University. Because he loved sports so much, he also loved boxing. So he said he jumped in the ring for fun, to compete, but not for a career. And the Golden Gloves, just to have a good time. And who does that? He got the Golden Gloves and fought a couple of battles just to say I did it. I fought at the Garden, and he loved to do that because he loved sports. Um, um, Joined the Department of Corrections, became a correction officer.
Wow.
Worked at C95 first. So in C95, he got to know the corrections staff, the inmates, helping the inmates, talking to them, communicating with them so that it's not a revolving door.
Hmm.
In 1991, there was the Crown Heights riots, you might remember.
Yep. Hmm.
Crown Heights, a young child was accidentally killed, Gavin Cato, and then a Jewish man, a Hasidic Jewish man, was killed after in Crown Heights. So my brother wanted to start. Can you see this picture?
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah. We see the picture.
And that's my brother.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's my brother. So he started the organization. He wanted to do something about it to bring a community together. And Crown Heights is very diversified, particularly with African Americans, Jewish, the community has Hasidic Jews,
Right.
and very diversified. So he said, we got to do something about it. So he just cried out, love yourself, stop the violence. Meaning, if you love your neighbor as you love yourself,
Hmm.
and say, love yourself, because if you hurt yourself, you hurt me, and we hurt our families and our neighbors, our whole entire community is hurt. Love yourself. Get to know yourself, and you'll treat people better. So the organization was Love Yourself, Stop the Violence. So we started with 4 people marching around the block. Love yourself, stop the violence. So he would say, love yourself, and I say, stop the violence, the chant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year it went to 50 people. Then the following year with 200 people. And before you know it, thousands of people was crying out and following us with the march, saying, love yourself, stop the violence. And then different people in the sports world, Don King, different people in the entertainment world, Salt and Pepper, and Mike Tyson, and Dougie Fresh, and Chuck D from Public Enemy. Different people got involved, and then we went on MTV and was talking about love yourself, stop the violence. And then initially, Rolanda Ross, she used to have a talk show. Mm-hmm. Rolanda Ross, and what's the other guy's name with the bald head? Help me out. He had a talk show. Montel Williams.
Oh, okay.
Montel, and then Geraldo Rivera, and then Oprah Winfrey. The different talk shows started reaching out to him. So now he's going to the talk shows and he's addressing it. And then he in turn said he wanted to speak out against the radio stations because they was playing hip hop music and degrading women. So he didn't appreciate women being degraded. So now he takes on the radio stations, and then he took on Toys R Us and the corporate protest because of look-alike sale of toy guns. So that's this right here. That's one of these. This is, if you can see it.
Okay.
That's him and the CEO of Toys R Us. So to remove look-alike toy guns from their shelves, because a child was killed in Brooklyn and Gowana's houses from the police. Well, you familiar?
I do remember.
You can tell us about it.
But you do remember, though?
Mm-hmm.
The child's name was Nicholas Haywood. He was playing with his friend with a look-alike toy gun, and the police thought it was a real gun. Right. And he was a child. I'm at 10 years old, 11 years old. But
I remember that.
Thought it was a real. You remember that, Johnny?
I remember that, brother.
Yes, the child's name was Nicholas Haywood. So the police thought it was a real gun and shot the child and killed him. So we went on a campaign to remove look-alike toy guns from stores. The gun literally looked like a real gun. It was a black gun, looking like a Glock.
But
so
you know, the sad thing is, even after that, they still continue to sell guns that look so real. And now we
still this day.
Mm-hmm.
Still this day.
Right. He started,
still this day.
But it needed to continue, and still, it's more about money and not about lives.
You're 100% correct. 2 years ago, in Ohio, a child was killed from a look-alike toy gun. The same thing, I think it was Tamara Rice. In Cleveland, Ohio, a child was playing with a toy gun 3 years ago, and was killed by the police. Same thing. So, but Toys R Us and KB Toys at that time sided with us, and the CEO of Toys R Us got with us, and he removed it off of his shelves. But so that was successful and it worked, but you got to stick with it. So then he decided to run for office. The reason that he got involved in politics was to bring more money into a community, to continue to bring a community together and address violence. So he ran for assembly a number of times against a young man named Clarence Norman.
I remember that, baby.
That's why I said the name, George, because I know you remember. Roger should probably remember too. But he ran for assembly a couple of times. At that time, Clarence Norman was a county leader, was the deputy speaker, and was the son of a preacher of one of the most powerful churches in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights. So my brother had the courage, because we always go in school, you go to the biggest guy. You don't fight the little guy. You go to the biggest guy. So he was a police officer. He transferred from correction to police. So he's a police officer and said, I'm taking on the county leader. The county leader. And then that was the kickoff into the politics. And ultimately, he won the district leader seat and won the city council seat. After a number of races, he won the district leader seat in the area, which is called the state committeeman. And then he won the city council seat when it was an open seat.
That's right.
Tish James. Tish James is currently the attorney general. So Tish James and him ran, and my brother beat Tish James for the city council seat.
Wow.
And then 17 months later, he was assassinated inside New York City Hall. So I tell people he was only elected to office for 17 months. And 20 years later, they're still talking about, people still approach me from, as a police officer, he was a police academy instructor. He worked in Warrens and a youth officer in Brownsville, but he was also transferred to be a police academy instructor. So police officers from all over the city got to know him. And till this day, 20 years later, the police officers who are now captains and lieutenants, etc., approach me. If I'm speaking out against police brutality, I've been approached by some of the officers, some of the lieutenants and commanding officers, inspectors saying, if I'm telling them you're doing wrong, and some of them took me to the side and whispered my ear and said, you know, you're. It was a setup. It was terrible. It was brutal. I'm telling the commanding officer that he's doing wrong, and he took me to the side and said, you know, your brother trained me. I said, you know, you're wrong, right? Because my brother was the police academy instructor. So stories like that, after 20 years, him being elected for 17 months, the majority of his notoriety, the majority of his fame, the majority of his celebrity, people got to know him from being the person in the community, that community activist, so the athlete, you know, the friend in the neighborhood, the ball player, things like that. And then he was elected, and then the last thing was he was a great orator. So he was a minister. He said, I'm Reverend James E. Davis. So he made his rounds at the different churches speaking, and he just absolutely loved that. And he was a minister, a man of faith, and with zero fear, just totally, completely courageous and brave. And we had many and we was very, 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 very close. So
you know, and not even James, you know, and the brother eventually, you know, he would have definitely ran for mayor one day too.
Definitely, no doubt about it. When our mayor today was in the 88th precinct, or one of the precincts, and they worked together.
That's
right.
My brother
was a police officer, and Mayor Adams was a police officer, and they all had the same circle of friends. Timothy Pearson, I mean, you name it, all the same friends. Corey, all the same friends. Everybody was friends with everybody, so they had aspirations to now mayor. My brother said he wanted to be the president of the United States. So it's huge aspirations, and they were saying they're going to do this, and they accomplished the things. My brother, of course, went to heaven. He made the transition, but Eric Adams was saying he wanted to be mayor when he was a police officer, and we're talking about 25 years ago. So it's just amazing to see. And then Hakeem Jeffries, he was a congressman. We met Hakeem Jeffries when he wanted to run for assembly. He wanted to run against a young man named Roger Green. So he asked my brother for help. So my brother supported him to run against Roger Green, and he lost twice. Roger Green beat him twice, and then ultimately Hakeem Jeffries won the assembly seat, and then the Congress seat, and today he's almost Speaker of the United States of America. So I'm happy that came to pass for Hakeem, but we knew him before he was elected, and knew Eric Adams and Tish James before she's Attorney General. And we're all highly respect one another.
You
and we see each other.
Listening to you, one thing I do commend is that even though you might run one time and you lose, just continue to go, because eventually you'll get to where you're meant to be. And that path, you never stop doing the work that you're doing in the process of getting to where you're going. So that's powerful.
I agree. I call it divine intervention, divine. Everything is where you're supposed to be. Consistency is the key. And everybody, this right here, I just did a talk show, a podcast with Errol Lewis over on New York One in Manhattan, and we laughed about it. We reminisced for 20 years, something that happened 20 years ago. And Errol Lewis and I laughed and about everything, and we were saying the same thing pretty much. Like, look at this, how we stayed community activists, stayed on the front line, and did the best we can to improve lives and to save lives in our community. And that was just wonderful. Divine intervention. Everything is there, divine. But to the young people, consistency is the key. Don't give up. Mm-hmm. And shoot for what do they say? Shoot for the stars and you land on the moon. Shoot for the stars and you land on the moon. But you have the capability of doing it. When I ran, I finished my brother's race. When he was killed, he was running for re-election for city council. I didn't have a clue about politics. Hakeem Jeffries came to my house and said, "Brother, let me run," because him and my brother were very close. "Let me do it." And I said, "Thank you." He came with his uncle, Dr. Jeffries, and he said, "Let me run." And I did like this. I appreciate it, but I got to represent my family without a clue about politics. I said, I got to hold my family down. Lord knows, but I got to do it myself. And then he said to me, he said, "Well, I will not run against you." Right? And he said, "But you know, Tish James is going to." I said, "So be it. It's going to be." He said, "I will not, but I can't. I can tell you this one. She gonna run." I said like this. I said, I heard of her, from her and my brother going back and forth, and I did like this. Well, then I just gotta, but I gotta get in there. I said, I got to mix it up because I got to represent. And my mother said, "You ain't got no choice. This is what we do. We're activists. Man up." I want to go in the corner and cry because I lost my brother. And my mother, who's an identical twin, whose sister passed away, and her brothers, said, "Man up. Don't get out that corner boo-hooing. This is what we do. Death is a part of life. Physically, we got to go, but spiritually, we continue to move on in legacy. This is what you was born to do. You got to get out there. And it's not about politics. It's about helping people and continue to build." I was like this. Okay. So they started asking me questions about 421A. John, they said 421A. I was like this. What baseball team? I said, "Is that a play in football?" I don't have a clue. And I'm on New York One National. It was national information. And I'm running against a lawyer. Tish James is a brilliant lawyer. And I was like this. So Aaron Lewis asked me today, he said, "What do you think about that?" He said, "I know you was grieving." I said, "I was a grieving candidate. And had I won, I would have been a grieving councilman." And got nothing done. I said like this. I was a grieving candidate who didn't know nothing. And I said I would have been a grieving councilman who knew nothing as well. And still got nothing done. So when I say divine, I said, "I got nothing." And then he said, "But you won the district leader seat." I said, "Yes, 15 years later." Like this. I said, "Yes, I won the district leader seat 15 years later when I was able to know what a state committeeman is and learn." And I said, and we laughed about it like this. And I said, and it was absolutely, but at the time that took place with my brother, I was running an after school program, 2 of them, a beacon program over in East Flatbush called My 11. Roger, are you on? I get an echo. Can you hear me? Okay.
I'm in the studio. So.
All right. So this young man, listen. So this young man, when I was working the beacon program at My 11, there was a guy that was clean, had a suit on. The children loved him. He was sharp. That young man was a young man that's one of the hosts on this show right now called Roger. He worked at My 11, but I knew him before that. But when I ran into him in the classroom with the children, and the children loved him, the staff loved him, and it was uplifting to see him there at the Beacon program.
So I have a question for you. 20 years later, what exactly will you all do to remember your brother?
Wait, Dr. Brian.
Okay.
Right, before you jump to the 20 years later, no, because I think that's an important question, right? Like, how do you keep the legacy alive? But I want to go back to that gruesome day before we get to that, right? And then we can transition chronologically to now, right? So then your question come back. So I know that gruesome day. Tell us to the extent that you want to talk about it. Right. Tell us to the extent, like, how did you feel when you got that phone call? How did you feel when, that this was somebody who he knew that had that devil plan, right? Walk us through that day.
Sure. That day, I was working at My 11. I ran the program. I ran the after school program, and it was a summer camp at that time. So my brother and I, we put together a fashion show, something called Family Day Fashion-a-thon that we did in the park. And he was the keynote speaker. I organized it, the models, the DJ, the runway, the chairs, the marketing. Family Day Fashion-a-thon. It was our second year. A tremendous success. We were doing it in Crown Heights in Broward Park by the Brooklyn Children's Museum. So I went out, I left the job to go get the flyers from downtown Brooklyn over in Dumbo to print, to put on the poles and everything to advertise. And when I came back from the print shop, I came back to the my 11, and the staff was crying in tears. And I said to my staff, "What's wrong?" And they just wailing and tears flowing. "What's wrong?" And they said, "Your brother." And I said, "My brother? What about my brother? My brother's in City Hall. I'm at work and he's at work. He's in City Hall. So City Hall is one of the most protected buildings. It's right down the block from the World Trade Center. Security everywhere. My brother's in City Hall. What's the problem?" They said, "Your brother." And I said, "All right, I'm going to City Hall." So I got in the car. One of them was driving me to City Hall, and I turned on the radio. And when I turned on the radio, close to the Brooklyn Bridge, I turned on the radio, and it said James Davis fatally shot. And at that time, of course, I know what the word fatal means. And it said fatal shot, breaking news, Councilman James Davis fatal shot. And I didn't know what fatal meant. When they say fatal, what does that mean? So my brain didn't want to embrace fatal. My brain said shot. I said fatal. I jumped out the car and I'm asking, because it's all blocked off. It's all traffic now. And I'm asking people, what does fatal mean? And a police officer was sitting there close to the Brooklyn Bridge by the 311 building on Flatbush Avenue Extension. And he see me running around asking, what does fatal mean? And then he approached me and I told him who I am. And that's my brother. And then he called it in. And then they gave him permission to open up traffic so we can follow him over the bridge because traffic was stopped. And then they drove me to the hospital. And then, you know, it's clicking in. When they say fatal, what do you mean? But then I knew as we were driving over the bridge, I'm seeing the helicopters. And then I got to the Beacon Hospital, which is right across from City Hall. And I'm seeing the police and the press and the administration and everybody there. And then when I went in, I see my mother sitting there. I saw my mother, my niece. I saw Earl Lewis. Different people was at the hospital looking at me with tears. And what's wrong? Talk to me. And they'd like this. And then I just collapsed. I felt my legs gave out right then and there. And I remember my legs I'm getting off the floor. Right? So they picked me up off the floor. And I said, I want to see him. And they said, you can't. So we did that for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then they said, okay, let him see him. And then they brought me in the back to see him. So the officers were standing around me, the inspectors and so forth. And I'm looking at my brother on the gurney. Right? He just got a haircut that day. So clean, sharp. And with his hair, he used to always rub his hair anyway because he had the waves. And they said, man, get off my head. So we always like, get off my head. So look at them waves, teasing him. And then I sat there standing over him, and I'm rubbing his waves. And then my nickname was Jep, J-E-P. He used to call me Geoffrey, but he said, hey, Jep. And then when I'm seeing him laying there, all I heard was from him saying, hold me down, Jep. We talked about these days, the possibility of this happening, because we talked about Dr. King a lot. And we talked about Malcolm a lot. And we talked about John F. Kennedy a lot. When you take the lead, these things can happen in America. So we had these kind of conversations. And he said, hold me down, Jeb, if something should happen to me. And I used to say to him, cracking a joke, if something happened to me. So he used to say, if something happens to me, I want Reverend Sharpton to do the funeral. I want this one. He said, I want you to organize it, and you can be one of the speakers. And I used to crack a joke and say, well, I'm going to be the keynote. I'm going to do the eulogy. And he said, if you do the eulogy, I'm going to jump up and cut you like that because I'm not a reverend. So we used to have those kind of jokes like this. He said, if you do the eulogy, I said, now, if something happened to me. And then he said, if something happened to you, I'll take care of it. So we had those kind of conversations. And then he said, you know, but if something happens to you, hold it down, hold me down, and hold this down. Not just James Davis, but my father's name was James Davis, and my grandfather's name was James Davis. And then our ancestors dating back to when we were kings and queens, past slavery, hold it down, because this is what we're here for, be ambassadors for our ancestors. So I'm broken. I'm devastated. He's my best friend. He's my big brother. I'm absolutely torn apart. Tears running as I speak, I get choked up. I looked across the street, and I'm seeing a whole block full of media with the cameras set up across the street from the hospital. I looked across the street. There's a community affairs officer from City Hall standing there. And I'm looking across the street, and I went straight across the street and said, and that was 20 years ago, and I didn't look back 20 years later. And I went across the street, and I dealt with the cameras and said, that's it, let's go. Because I heard him say to me, with the conversations of hold me down, meaning hold this whole thing down. And I went across the street, and that was it. The cameras came everywhere, and I didn't look back, and that was for 20 years. And that's been my life since then for 20 years.
And I want to thank you so much for sharing that very intimate story. Did they ever tell you why that young man decided to do what he did?
Well, in the community, you hear different stories where narratives are changed, but a lot of people knew my brother. He got around a lot. So one narrative was they tried to say my brother was gay. So the people that know my brother said, "Nah, no way." So I didn't defend nothing. One narrative said he was gay. I was like this. I just smile. And then people come to me and say, "You and your brother and I used to hang out at Sugar Hill." Was it Sugar Hill, John?
Yeah, Sugar Hill. Yeah.
Over
Sugar
on,
Hill,
on, on, Sugar, over on the Cal Battle. He said, "Me and James Davis be on Sugar Hill late night hanging out." I was like, so different people, and so many women said, I was going to be I'm your brother, your sister-in-law. And I was like, I just smile. Me and your brother get married. I just smile. Okay. So I was doing a lot of smiling and listening to a whole lot of different stories with the narratives. So then, in City Hall, I went to City Hall, and the police officer that did the my brother used to speak out against police brutality very aggressively with not Amla Weema. Amla Weema was Brooklyn. Amadou Diallo was Brooklyn. No, Amadou Diallo was the Hall with the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Amadou Diallo was Brooklyn, right? The 70 precinct. Amadou Diallo.
I've never
Abner Louima, help me out. Abner Louima was 70. So my brother used to speak out against police brutality, very aggressive and passionate. So as a police officer, he was kind of a loner because he's breaking the sounds, the blue wall. He's speaking out against police brutality. So, and then he spoke out against Mike Bloomberg. So that's corporations. And then at that time, they was building the Barclays. It wasn't getting built, it was talks. And the Navy Yard, and Steiner Studios, and City Point, all down there was a district. So, and he said to them, I support it. However, in this particular zip code, unemployment should drop completely. Unemployment should drop in this zip code with the Navy Yard billions of dollars, the Barclay billions of dollars, City Point billions of dollars. So then we looked at that. So I went to City Hall, and then the shooting was on the balcony in City Hall. So they said the shooter shot my brother. My brother brought him in, and they went up the steps, and the shooter shot my brother in on the balcony in the chamber. And then they said the police officer was down at the bottom of the balcony, way at the front, if you've been to City Hall, and he shot the shooter, Officer Burke, Detective Burke. So I looked in the wall for a bullet, a hole, saying every bullet went into the body of the person that did the shooting. No bullet missed. So now this is my brain. As a victim, a family member, I said, no bullets went in the wall. Every bullet hit the person, the shooter. And on the balcony, you have the, where you hold on to it so you don't fall over. The legs, the arms, the whole of the balcony. I said, no bullet hit that. And I do like this. So then, hearing all these different stories, I said, let me see the tape. I want to see the videotape of the shooting, right? And there was no videotape. So we did the foil, and the foil just, you hear the gunshots. The foil is the freedom of information. You hear the gunshots, but you don't see the shooter shooting. And I was like this. And then the shooter body was cremated immediately. So I asked them, I said, I want to see the autopsy for the shooter's body to see where the bullets hit him. Nope, he's cremated. They said he had AIDS, and they got rid of the body. So then your mind starts thinking like this. Wait a minute. So I go to Jimmy Hoffa. I go to Lee Harvey Oswald. I go to Jack Ruby. My brain is going everywhere now, and I'm listening to people in the community because I wasn't there. And I was like, and we know the history of the media. Yeah, Johnny boy, the media sometimes doesn't always tell the truth. They change narratives sometimes.
We know that, man. We know that.
We know that. So they change narratives to fit how they want it to be viewed. So the brain is going, and as time is going by, I said, this will absolutely kill me. All of these different thoughts will destroy me on the inside for me going on and doing the work that I'm called to do. Because, and I just said, I just pray that somebody say something somewhere to bring me peace in that area. And it's been 20 years. And then they said, what's your therapy? Did you seek a therapist? I said, Earl Lewis asked that today. Did you go to therapy? And I responded to him. I said, I'm in therapy right now by talking to you. It's ongoing therapy. Every time I march, I'm in therapy. Every time I'm talking to a victim of violence, I'm not just helping them. I'm also helping myself. This is all tonight. You guys are therapists, by the way. Doctor, can you hear me?
We got
Johnny
Dr.
boy?
Brian in the house. Dr. Brian.
Oh, buddy, I hear you.
We have two doctors on, right? So you have Dr. Sampson and Dr. Brian. That is true. And many people.
You got two doctors on?
Well, I like to call Dr. Sampson, but because at the end of his name is John Sampson JD. So a lot of people don't know that he's actually a doctor because he's a lawyer. Most people.
Oh, we know that John Sampson JD is an absolutely brilliant young man that I've known for over 20 years, and he's a giant in my eyes. He's a close friend, and we know how intelligent. We know his educational background. We know his history. To me, he's Johnny Boy.
Well, he's Johnny Boy.
Amen.
So, let's fast forward to Dr. Bryant's question. She had a question about 20 years later.
Huh? I'm sorry, Roger?
And so we're forward into Dr. Bryant. Dr. Bryant had a question that she was asking.
Yes, Dr. Bryant.
So as we move into 20 years, celebrating your brother's history, because it's not, in spite of everything, what will you all be doing as a legacy event? Will you be at an event, march? Mm-hmm.
Well, for the last 20 years, I have a children's book called Love Yourself, Love Each Other, right? We talk to people in the community regularly. I talk to teenagers. And then I said, I got to go from teenagers, I got to go younger. So then from teenagers, I went down to elementary. And then I said, elementary, I'm still not satisfied. Then I went younger to 6-year-olds or 5 to 6-year-olds to teach them how to handle violence and everything. So we made a children's book called Love Yourself, Love Each Other. And that's out there now. And then I said, okay. And then I said, and to be honest with you, I'm still not comfortable with the 5 and 6-year-olds. I'm going to talk to the mama with the child in the stomach pregnant like this.
The message that you do preach, the message that you do share is so important because nowadays, as we started the show, people have a disregard for other people's lives. And if you don't love yourself, you don't love others. And that's seeing that constantly, reflection on self-hate, you end up destroying other people's lives. So it's so true.
In the life that you destroy, if you're angry at one person, so that one person got you upset, and you're angry, road rage, I heard you talking about road rage, whatever it is. So you think it's just you and that one person that you think that one person is the only one you're harming or you're destroying? That one person has a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, children, a family, neighbors, friends. From that one person, you just now hurt a family.
That is so true.
Hurt neighbors, hurt a community, and hurt a nation. And you hurt yourself. So when it comes up, do you forgive? Do you forgive the person who did this to your brother? I said, I agree. Listen, Roger, I said, I aggressively forgive him. Not forgive him kindly, I forgive you. Because I'm angry and I'm hurt. But I aggressively, with tears in my eyes, saying, I forgive you. If this should come up with any other person where they want to commit a violent act towards somebody, don't walk away to the person that's angry and wants to commit a violent. Run away. Save the person's life that you're going to hurt and save your own life.
All the time.
Don't walk away. Run. If you're angry.
Dr. Brian, hold it, Dr. Brian. You didn't agree with that. I ran him over. So cut it out, Dr. Brian.
Listen, John.
I love the story, Jeff. Right? Yeah. I love the story, Jeff. Just taking a word out of what you nicknamed by your family. About About James, Council Member James. He will be forever known as Reverend Council Member James E. Davis and everything else that he has done. We talk about a lot of times, all three of us on the show, the host and also our background people Andre, who's our executive producer, and Sophia Willisey, who is our producer for this program. We talk about Black Lives Matter, and we get angry about Black Lives Matter. Not because we don't see the importance of respecting Black lives, but they're focused on police brutality, which is not uncommon, but it's not as common as Blacks' violence against Blacks within our communities. The violence that we see when we walk the streets of Crown Heights. When I walk the streets of Brownsville, I think somebody earlier in the show, if we go back and read that person's comment, I don't remember what the comment was, but he was in Brownsville. Where is it? I don't know if Andre can find it. I think this is it right here, right? Where, today someone had told me that there's no hope in Brownsville. I hung up on him, but I have a bad feeling about the way that people think and work with our children, because but the point is, and I grew up in Brownsville in the 90s. I grew up in Brownsville and Canarsie in the 90s, right? Remsen Village, so much violence. Tell us why this movement to stop the violence, love yourself, not just address Black Lives Matter, but address the importance of lives to matter, right?
Well, all right. So, Crown Heights, where I live at, where I was raised at in Crown Heights, on President Street, you had the Ribby, the Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He's a Ribby, the Lubavitch Ribby. On President, that's the Jewish community. And then you had, across the street from me, an Episcopalian church. So there's an Episcopalian church right across the street from me. There's a synagogue, 770, international headquarters, right there by me. Down the block, there's a Catholic church, right there by me. Then you had the Muslim, right? You had the Muslim, not the church, the Muslim fellowship right there. So now and then you have the Christians right there, which is Washington Temple. He lived right there. So all of these different backgrounds were around us, and all these different backgrounds were talking to us. So you had the Episcopalian, you had the Catholic, you had the Jewish, you had the Christian, and then you had the Baptist, and then you had the Muslim at the temple, the Muslim temple, and all these different people, the imam, and everybody's talking to us. So it showed you got a chance to listen to everybody and say that we're all people. We're all people, and we're thriving. We have families, and we're thriving to enjoy this journey of life, right? And everybody has their different beliefs, if you will, with a higher power. But we're all human beings, and we're all people just trying to get through this thing. When that happened to my brother, they didn't. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't know if he was from the Hare Krishna faith. You wouldn't have known because he's fellowshipping with the Muslims. You wouldn't know if he was a Muslim because he has his shoes off sometime at the Muslim temple on Fulton and Bedford. Then you wouldn't know if he was Catholic because he's down in St. Gregory's fellowshipping with the Catholic Church. Then you wouldn't know he was a preacher. So now he's preaching as a reverend with the Christian church. And then so across the board, you say, James Davis was gay. You wouldn't know whether he was or not because he respected all people from all walks of life. If you close your eyes, you say, was he white? He had the personality. There was a councilman named Charles Barron, for those who might know, Councilman Charles Barron. Councilman Charles Barron is a nationalist, a Black nationalist. He was over in East New York, Brownsville, East New York. Charles Barron was my brother's best friend. Then you had a councilman named Councilman Lou Fittler, who was Jewish. Lou Fittler would stand up. He passed away, rest in peace. Lou Fittler would stand up and say, James Davis is my best friend. Now, how did James Davis pull that off? And meanwhile, they two can't stand each other. Lou Fittler and Charles Barron fought at every turn. Now, how is it that James Davis is in Africa with Charles Barron, like this, speaking up for views and the land and values with Mugambi, and how is it that he's in Israel with Lou Fittler the next month, in Israel praying by the wall? How was he able to do that? What he was showing is that we're all people, and we can come on common ground, because when we get cut, the blood is red.
That's it.
When we hurt, I hurt. He said, so then and then Marty Marcos at that time was the borough president. Marty Marcos said, you know your brother was my best friend. I done heard that from councilman at that time, Eric DeLon. I done heard that from Eric DeLon, Marty Marcos, Lou Fittler, Charles Barron. These are different people from different, Eva Moskowitz, Christine Quinn. These are different people from different backgrounds. So how was he able to adjust to all these different people to say, because what he's saying is that we're all one. And I can communicate and adjust and be one with any human being, because we're all human beings. So, and Crown Heights was very diversified, Roderick. So we just said, love yourself, stop the violence. So the marches was, he had a rabbi named Rabbi Kanina Sperling, Kanina, on the left-hand side of him. And then you had Don King on the right-hand side. And then you had Harvey Kriska. And then you had a hip-hop artist, right there with the salt and pepper. And then everybody together walking. And then you had Evander Holyfield, who was at a war, he's a boxer, with Mike Tyson. So now how do you have both of them like this? There's Evander Holyfield, there's Mike Tyson. And they want to kill each other. So how do you adjust? You had to adjust. He had the personality to adjust. And that was amazing. So what we was doing is reaching out to everybody. And he wanted to use his police job. He was a youth officer first in the 73rd Precinct. And he said, I'm showing the community that the community is not accustomed to seeing a police officer speak like this. Talk to him like this. A young man, you can get arrested and it can be on your criminal record. Would you stop it? I'm going to toss you and tell you to stop it. I'm not going to, this job is not to make arrests. This is not my job is not to make arrests, go around arresting these young black children. No, my job is to get out there and talk to the children, to stop them from doing what they're doing so they don't get arrested and they can get a job. When he passed away, the memorial in front of my house, there were gang members in front of my door in tears. In Fort Greene, Ingersoll and Walt Whitman houses, my brother used to have meetings, council member meetings and so forth, and they didn't come. He invited them, and they didn't come. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, he went to their meeting when they was on the bench in the projects, and they almost choked when they smoking their weed. They like this, Davis, what are you doing here? He said, well, you didn't come to my meeting. I might as well come to yours. And they said, what in the world are you doing in the project at 3 o'clock in the morning? And they almost choked like this. What are you doing here? He said, no, you can keep smoking. All right, well, but you didn't come to my meeting. So what's the topic of the conversation? They like this. What in the world are you doing here? Aren't you scared? He said, scared of what? You're my brothers. You're my community. We're all together here. What do you mean scared?
Yeah,
and he's talking to the kids.
I want to switch mode. I want to switch mode a little bit and understand that you became the district leader. And I don't remember what number that district was up there in
43rd. 43rd.
Yeah, 43rd, which is now the Assembly member Brian Cunningham, who's representing that district currently.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, real quick, we have about 5 minutes left, to just talk to you about what are some of your aspirations? Are you looking at yourself running for office? What are some of your aspirations outside of being district leader?
No. I won the district leader seat in 2014.
Right.
My brother was also the district leader. I won the district leader seat in 2004. I ran for city council. My brother was city council. I ran for assembly, lost. I ran for the district leader, and when I won the district leader seat, I bought I look at it like in boxing, you got championship belts, WBA, WBC, WBO. When I won the district leader seat, I brought it back home and said, violence did not win. I brought it back home, mama. Here's the district leader seat that my brother had, the district leader seat. Stayed there for 6 years, elected some amazing judges, got people working polls, supported the machine in the county. We did wonderful work. Started meetings in the community to make the district leader seat come alive. Because technically the district leader seat at one time was one of the most powerful seats. That is the beginning of it all. So I wanted it to come alive. So I stayed there for 6 years and said, coming September, I'll be 60 years old. And I said, no, we did what we had to do, and for 30 years in Brooklyn. and throughout the nation of addressing violence. We built a recreation center. We revitalized an armory. We revitalized an armory, which was a dream 30 years ago. It came back around on the table while I was a district leader, and we went full speed ahead to make that a reality. And when it became a reality, the Bedford Union Armory, I honored Major Owens, rest in peace. He was a congressman. Congressman Major Owens wanted to name that armory after my brother when that happened to my brother. So he connected with Congressman Ed Towns. But it was a lot of red tape and so forth, so they couldn't get the armory because it wasn't there. It didn't manifest. So they named the post office after my brother, the James C. Davis Post Office on Empire Boulevard, through the pushing of Congressman Major Owens. So when it came back on the table for the recreation center to be changed, for the armory to be changed into a recreation center, I pushed with everything I had with my meetings and so forth. And they said, who would you like for it to be named after? And I said, Congressman Major Owens. In memory, this is my way in memory of my brother. And that's me saying thank you to him for remembering my family. And today is the Major R. Owens Health and Wellness Center. I have zero aspirations to be elected. In September, I'll be. I achieved all that I had, all that I wanted. I accomplished. We have a children's book, as I mentioned. Love yourself, love each other.
Your aspiration. That is
funny. I have zero political aspirations to be an elected official. And we won an Emmy Award, Roger and Doctor. We won an Emmy Award for a documentary that Pix 11 did called Only in New York, right? Which was huge. We won an Emmy Award.
Congrats.
I put some meat on the bones of words to say, on the words, stop the violence. I put some meat on them words. And today, thousands of people come through that recreation center of all walks of life, Caribbean, South American, Hasidic, you name it. People from all walks of life use that recreation center. And I see them coming through the door. And, hey, Doctor, Roger, I need you on this one. You listening? Can you hear me? You can write the letter from you, and Johnny Boy, you can help me with this one too. And also, Doctor, thousands of people come to the door at a recreation center. So I'm not just saying stop the violence. Words. I put some meat on that where our kids are off the street. They're swimming, playing soccer, basketball, homework help, computer training, in a fitness center. The comedians are coming through the door. I did some boxing in there. People from all walks of life. So Johnny Boy and Roger, you can help me on this one. When you write the letter for the Nobel Peace Prize, right, and you get me nominated, just GEO is how I spell my name, like this. When you write the letter for the Nobel Peace Prize, because people from all over the world come in that armory, like this. So we put some meat and potatoes. Now, what will I do? What will I recommend for our people? If a camera comes to me and says, what do you do? You know, I don't say we need funding. I say find it. I found literally a developer who has hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And we put that money into building and we use that money to build a recreation center where thousands and thousands of people come through. So we got to be strategic and find the money. In order to address violence, you need community centers, recreation centers. Idle hands is the devil's workshop. Our children need to be off the streets and involved in activities. Chess, math, I mean, anything. Artistic, dance, artistic programs, dance, chess, math. If they want to express themselves in comedy, through singing, through sports and arts, whatever it is, through swimming. They can't be on the streets where there's nothing going on, because idle hands is the devil's workshop. Get them in the recreation centers, get them in the different community centers, and that's how you address violence. Hands-on with you put meat, you put some meat, I call it meat and potato, you put some meat on the bones of the words, stop the violence. So we put some meat on the bones.
What is the date normally? What is the date normally of the event?
I'm sorry, one more time. I'm sorry.
What is the date of the march? Do you still do that march?
This guy want me to run for office, and I told you I'll be 60 years old. come to the recreation center and enjoy yourself.
I do come to the recreation center.
I ain't marching.
My kids play soccer there, actually.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Your children come to they do soccer there?
Yeah, they did soccer there in the fall. And Saturdays from 4 to 6.
Would you write the letter for me, please? Geoffrey Davis, GEO, for the Nobel Peace Prize. Your children come through there. I did my job.
Yes.
Now, if other organizations invite, say do a march and everything, I'll walk with them. I walk with other organizations. You got Trinell Gabay. Her husband was Carrie Gabay, and she wants to. But I'm not going to be the guy who stays in the pulpit till he's 90. I pass the torch to younger people, and and counsel, and advise, and teach, and tell them how to go about things, and so they can learn. And then they just take the ball and just rumble and go rumble, young man, rumble, and they just keep going with it. We don't keep it to ourselves. We show and teach, and that's what I've been pretty much doing. So through the book, through the film, through the recreation center, and through speaking engagements, bringing the community together, that's what I've been doing. Thanks. And we did the politics as well. And I'm in touch. I'm supposed to go to D.C. with Hakeem next week as a memorial. We're going to be in the Armory July 20th, and we're going to do for about a half an hour memorial. I'm going to donate $5,000. There's a basketball, you might know it, Roger. There's a basketball program called New Heights. Are you familiar?
No. Where is it?
It's in the Armory. It's called New Heights. New Heights.
Yes, I do. Because somebody told me about it. Yes, I do know about it. I know of it.
It's an amazing basketball program. There's thousands of people from all walks of life on their basketball courts. So, in memory of my brother, I'm going to make a donation to them for $5,000 to continue to do what they do in memory of my brother. And that's how I honor him, by helping others continue to go on with their not-for-profit organizations and build. And that's the legacy, helping other people now. We did 30 years on the streets. Now you help other people in any way you can.
That is true.
And that's what and my resources, I will, if I have resources with State Farm or Apple Bank, then I will invite the head of those not-for-profits to meet my resources, because we have a tendency of keeping the resources to ourselves and sharing it. And sharing the resources with the other not-for-profits so they can continue to go on and grow. And that's what I've been doing.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. And yes.
Let me close with something. Let me close with something with the listening audience. It's been 20 years. I want to say to everyone who posted a nice message on social media, everyone who pressed the like button on social media, when walking down the street, if you just smiled and you recognized me and you smiled, if you just thought about my brother at any point in what we've been through, and you just even a thought with your family member, and you said, I remember that, or whatever it is, if you helped another victim of violence, I want to just say to you guys and everybody to the listening audience, thank you. I'm so honored and I'm so appreciative. And I can't tell you, it was because of you guys that I was able to do the 20 years. And I want to say just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And many blessings to you and your family, a trillion times over. Thank you.
And we thank you for the work that you're doing and keeping his legacy alive, and just being present and seeing the needs, like you said, connecting people, your heart being for the children, and also finding creative ways to stop the violence, to help out, like you said, put meat on those bones. So thank you. It is.
We put some meat on the word stop the violence. We put some meat and got that recreation center and children books and film and through the arts.
And
that's right.
Winning. Oh my gosh. So you're doing it. And
that's right.
That's I know you also have a show that you need to go to tonight from those boys from Tennessee.
Hey, tonight, if the show's at 9:40, Elvis Presley's cousin. Roger, that's his cousin.
Who?
That's Elvis Presley. Huh?
That's Elvis Presley's cousin?
The guy you was talking to last night in the restaurant was Elvis Presley's cousin. You believe that?
Really?
His name is Nathaniel Presley. Google it, Nathan Presley.
Wow. So
he put me. Wasn't that something?
Yeah, it was. a very small world.
He's in Brooklyn. He's in Brooklyn, New York, to perform at the Bowery in Manhattan, and he's leaving tomorrow. And he put me on the guest list. He's before, and then he said, "I said that's his cousin. Cousin? What do you mean we say cousin? You know Elvis Presley? You ain't know about Hound Dog?" He's like this. That's his first cousin. His mother's. He's the second cousin. His mother was the sister or something. I was like this, and it's all over the internet. That's the cousin. So he invited me to Graceland when I go out there to Memphis. I go to Graceland. I go with Dr. King, the hotel. I'm gonna go down there and just hang out with them.
Yeah, that's nice. I know they're part of a band, Dr. Brian. So they had a show in New York City tonight.
It's called NP. The letter N is in Nancy. P as in Presley. N.P. Presley is his name. Nathan Presley is Elvis Presley's cousin.
That's nice. I'll probably do some Googling often. But I just wanted to take the time out to say thank you so much for participating with us tonight. I don't know, Andre, to pull up the information to get in touch with Geoffrey Davis. If you have questions, send a letter. Because he's also on Facebook, right? So you can reach out to him on Facebook as well as Geoffrey Davis to talk about, and send a note of gratitude, send a note. You know, if violence has stopped, is because of the work, some of the work of his brother and himself, right? And being part of that marching through the community, recognizing for young people. Hey, you said something earlier, and I just want to leave with this. Say, hey, if you start to teach them from a young age, they will start to appreciate from a young age, and they'll make a difference over a lifetime. Because I remember when I was 5 years old, I remember speaking to Teddy, and Teddy was about 18 at the time, and he was killed. He was stabbed to death 3 times in the heart on 1977. And I remember the talk that we had about violence and why violence is a problem. Look at Teddy, who we can no longer speak to. And that has had an impact. So when you say you're reaching out to young people, it will have an impact on them, on what they're doing. So your work is recommendable and will continue to live through you and your brothers. Your brother will live through you and the efforts that it is that you've done and the legacy that you've provided. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And thank you for what you do. I seen you in the classroom. I came and visited you in the classroom. I seen you with the young people. I seen it with my own eyes, and that you in that classroom helping them young people over at my 11. I seen it, and I seen John. I call him Johnny Boy. I seen the work. I seen John many years out in the community. And Doctor, keep pushing, Doc. You're doing great. A dynamic host. We love you. As I close, when I say love yourself, can you say stop the violence?
Absolutely.
All right. Are you ready, Roderick?
Yes, sir.
Love yourself.
Stop the
violence.
Love yourself.
Stop the violence.
All right. I love you. God bless you.
God bless
Stay in touch, guys.
And thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Right.
Andre, run the social daycare, please. Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you so much for joining us right here on the Village Radio Talk Show. We are brought to you by the Grace Family Adult Social Daycare, 347-770-8446 or 347-770-8447 or 646-504-5778, where if you have somebody who wants the opportunity to come out and participate in all the activities for our adults, please let them come out. Billiards, table tennis, dominoes, bingo, cards, board games, arts and crafts, salon services for ladies, gents. You get good food, BBQ, breakfast, lunch, beverages provided by Golden Crust and other restaurants. 1330 Utica Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11203. Medicaid is, as a matter of fact, the program is free once you have Medicaid. So, nothing out of pocket if you have Medicaid, so you can come by, call, send an email to gracefamilyadult@gmail.com, or check out our website at gracefamilyasdcare.com. God bless and have um, an opportunity. God bless and have a great evening. Great opportunity to come out and meet and speak to other people who want to be involved. So we ensure a healthy and happy life for our elders, our adults. We're starting up, Dr. Brian, talking about violence
Yeah.
that's happening. And, his brother, Geoffrey Davis, James E. Davis, his brother was a staunch advocate for anti-violence.
Mm-hmm.
And and to see the craziness of what happened to him, trying to spread the word, trying to spread the word of nonviolence, and to see him gunned down, just another major person, and another major person out there, like Dr. King, like uh, John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Malcolm X, and uplifting of the black people to be ostracized and killed. That was very hurtful and painful.
So yeah, when people are at the forefront fighting and continuing that fight, it is something that we need till today. We need people to create activities so that kids can stay off the street and not go around and do something, get caught up in activities that they shouldn't. So it is so important. The work that he's doing is so powerful and so important. So we do thank him for the work that he does in the community, in and around the community. So, Roderick, a lot's been going on. Let's talk about it.
That it's your fault why so many things are happening
It
in the
is.
media. So I got, I'm going to do a little bit like what is that show called? That radio station, um,
I don't know.
1010 Wins, right?
Oh God,
Do a little bit like it, right?
please do.
Right. It's it's recap Ukraine, Ukraine, what's happening in Ukraine. You have the former um, the former head of the CIA being under heavy scrutiny from being out there on the shopping blocks, right? Being asked by so many different electeds about what is happening, and Trumpism. We have the race for Cornell West now stepped into.
What do you think about that?
Um, well, we could talk about all of them. I'm just bringing some of them up before we get to them. We spoke briefly about the four people, including two children, that were injured by the scooter earlier up there in the Bronx. We have New York City Council member attacked Mayor Adams. The Adams' responses to wildfire smoke that has eloped the city. The man struck and killed by driver alleged Upper East Side. We talk about that a little bit. Russia and the G Summit, where they don't want Ukraine to be part of that lawsuit, and suing the president as well about the social media, and you know right, and Harris ties Calhoun's 191-year-old record, right? Because now, it's 50-50. Um, and so she's the tiebreaker for votes. So she tied and she will break it. I promise you she will break it before this tenure is over. When you have 50-50 Senate. So what is it that what do you want to leave with?
What do I want to talk about?
Yeah, what do you
I
want to leave
want to talk about. We started with violence, unfortunately, because that's what's plaguing our environment. But you know what? Even though we're talking about violence, it's not as bad as it was last year. So grateful for that. Um, you know, take the small little wins and be positive about that. I do want to speak about, um, this weather out here. They blame
with? Is what? I
the
didn't hear you.
mayor. I said they blame the mayor about not informing the city council, blame the mayor about not informing the public earlier about the Orange Day. I call it the Orange Day. So, what do you think about that? Do you think they should have done more before
I think personally, I think
the wildfire?
he's the head of the city,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's the head of the city,
Mm-hmm.
and being the head of the city, right? He's gonna accrue the bulk of the responsibility for what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, the speaker of the council, Andreen Adams, was aware. The governor was aware. The U.S. senators were aware. There's so many. The president of the United States was aware, but who? Yeah, Adams is in trouble, right? Adams is in trouble because a lot of people are not liking some of the things that he's doing, right? And so he's the easiest target, right? He's the easiest target. Let's pick on him,
Absolutely. Absolutely. When
right?
you are in charge, the blame come on you.
Yes.
And
So the question becomes: is he really to be blamed as much as they're blaming him, or he's the perfect scapegoat? And I think right now it's the perfect scapegoat.
okay, okay,
And,
okay.
and not to mention, by the way, just for the record, most of us don't listen to the news in
I
the
do. I listen to the news every day.
I don't say that we don't. I said most of us, especially young people, right? Young people put on Z100, Hot 97, 105.1,
Hmm.
and 95.5, and that's what they listen to. I have yet to walk in the car, leaving the radio, and we like sports, so I listen to sports, right? Um, I've yet to walk into the car, and my wife, my children, my mother, my friend Sampras, right? I've yet to walk in a car and any of them have won 10-10 wins, right? To hear what is happening. So the only thing, my son said he hears my son Carter says, I hear enough of the news on Z100, enough that I need to know. My wife says I read it, I get a blast on my phone if the news
Yeah.
is newsworthy,
Right. On
right?
the phone. Right.
So in essence, you know what? Sometimes they're really not listening.
That's
So
true.
the,
But you
the,
know what? When it comes to your health, I did hear that. The day of.
it
I
was
didn't.
disgusting.
Yeah, but I don't think we thought it was going to be that bad. They're saying, hey, guys, the such and such, you never pay attention to that. That's something that we typically, okay, yeah, the ozone layer, blah, 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 blah. It goes in one ear, out the other for everybody. It's not until it turned orange that people were paying attention. And then the smoke, when you started to actually smell the smoke, that you really took what was being said earlier, like you mentioned, seriously. You're like, wait a minute, it smells like it's really smoking out here.
Yeah.
You know, when your windows close and you're still inhaling the burn, you're like, what? Canada? And we're here? So I get it. I don't know what he could have done differently, to be honest with you. If he tell you, hey, this is happening, what would be different? We would still get smoke. We would still get the orange color. What do you think?
I mean, like I said, honestly, I don't know. I think like sometimes people blame. We are blamers, right? People are natural blamers and not taking onus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to find somebody to blame.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting harassed by their constituent, right? And so who are they going to put the blame on? Just like the congestion pricing, right? They're going to put
That's
it back on the
they should
mayor.
talk about that. They should talk about that. Like, why? You already don't have enough.
They're going to put that. They're going to put that back on the mayor, right? Just
But
like
it's
they
not
did
the
with.
mayor. It's not the mayor that did the congestion pricing. It's Kathy Hochul that was pushing
No,
it.
but what I'm saying is that they're going to put the onus. They're going to put the onus back on the mayor, right? They're going to put the onus back on the mayor when the 51 city council people are going to vote in favor of it, right? So those people in Manhattan,
What, congestion pricing?
yes, city council has to vote on it, and they're going to vote on it because they're going to say that's what the mayor is pushing,
That's
right?
no.
And they have a super
This is
majority.
where I would blame Kathy Hochul. She's pushing that, and everybody else that was pushing that before her.
Yeah,
MTA, Kathy Hochul, because she, and then the federal government approved the crap. I was like, what?
you know that but you're right, right? You're 100% correct. Like they are just looking at these things, and again, it's the thumbs going like this.
Yeah, but on this, the congestion pricing, he is on the lower. It has nothing to do with him. It comes because he can't make a decision. What he can't vote on that alone. It is the little parties that's connecting. MTA is a big. They have their big bullhorn. Oh, we need more money. We need more money. Every time they're coming out, we need more money. Well, we need more money to actually get around. They want more money to fix the train. Okay, you got more money for the train, but guess what? You still have a lot of crimes. You want more money for the bus. Okay, great. But now you're, instead of using the bus lane, you're putting more bikes in the area. So it's like, okay, we're shedding out more money, but then the cost of living is going up. They have no control over that. But the quality of life is getting worse because they're putting things to block what it is that they're asking for.
And you're right, right? You're right. The city is trying to gain money on other people's backs, and
Yeah, come on. Rent is high enough. Mortgage is
everything is high enough, not just rent.
no. I'm going down the line.
Okay.
Rent is high enough. Mortgage is high enough. The food is going up. Insurance is out the roof because it's New York City. Then you have taxes that's high. Then to top it off, you're going to add congestion pricing. Who's going to be able to live in New York? Nobody. That's a problem.
Just Dr. Brian. Just Dr. Brian.
Mm.
I was sitting in a meeting, right, and I was complaining, right, and I was complaining. I was like, every year the census is out, and people don't want to stay in New York, right? They don't want to stay. They want to leave, and
Just don't go to Florida.
yeah. But I mean, obviously, right now, Florida, Tennessee, those red states are looking very nice, right? They're looking very nice.
But if you get flood out, you in trouble on your own, just like upstate New York.
Well, it depends on where you are. In every state, you have pockets of the state. Remember, America has several. The only real climate that catastrophe that we don't really have is
Listen,
tsunami.
what happened on, let me tell you what happened on and pay attention to the weather. What happened on Saturday and Sunday, upstate New York got hit. Then Vermont got hit yesterday. They're flooded.
Did you
You
forget
know,
that we had Sandy in 2012?
yeah, but it's like every day it's a
Did
new part
you
of
did
New
you
York,
forget
upstate
again that
New York
there's Sandy
that's getting
in
hit.
2012? Did you forget that?
So I'm just
Hello? Are you there?
wow. I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. And we had a few years after that, we had another storm. Many years ago, about 20 something years ago, we had an earthquake in Manhattan. I don't know
Yeah,
if you remember that.
there was an
About
earthquake.
30 something years ago. Right, we had that. Hi Janice, how you doing? Yeah, we do know that that people. Of course, everybody had. There are like 60 million radio stations. Of course, people listen to the news. I'm saying a lot of young people don't listen to the news. A lot of those people are making the complaints.
What they
Don't
should
listen
listen to is that prime drink that they should not be drinking.
But then I don't drink. What are you talking about?
Prime that has so much caffeine.
Oh, those drinks.
Sports drink, yeah, prime. And that, let me tell you, my nephew is addicted to it. He's like, hey, you know, prime, prime, prime. Why? And where do you learn it from? Social media.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My sons, I have to stop them, right? Because all they do all day, if I allow them to, is listen to damn TikTok all day, right? My 10-year-old, he'll watch YouTube like it's going out of style,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like, yo, dude, why? Right? So that's all I was saying about the news. Like a lot of young people are unaware and they're reliant on other people to tell them what's going on. A lot. What else is happening? The G summit, the Ukraine
I
issue.
was, let me tell you, I was shocked that Biden said that no, they shouldn't let Ukraine into NATO. I was kind of surprised. As much money as he's sending, you know, the United States is sending to Ukraine, I was expecting him to say yes, let them in, let them in. Never expected him to say no. So that was like, whoa, what is
Well,
this?
you have to remember that you're looking at economic windfall, right? So, you know, they know. Let's not fool ourselves. Russia is a superpower, right? It might not be as potent as the United States, but all you need is to drop 50 to 20 nuclear bombs all over the United States, and you're gonna wipe some people out, right? The United States have to do the same, right? Um, so you have to be careful about threats by Russia because that economic pull can affect um, around the world, right? Who's one of their strongest allies? China, right?
Mm.
China is one of their biggest allies. So if China is one of the biggest allies, they're responsible for a large amount of the economic pull in the world, and that's going to cause a problem.
Let me ask you. I'm happy you said that. Now, China is a major powerhouse. Russia is a major powerhouse. Now, social media in itself is a major powerhouse, and the gun industry is powerhouse. Now, if you were to sue social media and the gun industry for shooting happened, do you think that they actually would win? Similar to Fox broadcast, how they sued about the lies that they claim in regards to the election and everything. Do you think they would win?
Yeah,
Social media and the gun industry for the Boston, the Buffalo shooting.
yeah. Would they win is another conversation.
Yeah, how so? How so? Because I know there's a new lawsuit against them, but do you think that it would be something that
I think social media has to do a better job of finding buzzwords, right? What are these buzzwords that is going to cause problems? The um, websites, right? So like HostGator and I
But the
forgot.
gun industry, they tried the gun industry several
No,
times.
no, 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 no.
Gun
Those-
manufacturers.
No, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the website builders. They have to have somebody that's reviewing content,
Mm.
right? What's going up on the web? Yeah, grandfather is watching. Yes, I agree. And we don't want that grandfather to be watching, right? I agree with that. However, when you come up on situations like these,
Mm-hmm.
right, it is important, right? It is very important that we recognize acts of violence and potential violence. And what does that look like for a community?
Stopping it to
Right,
continue to spread.
exactly. Now, people are going to say, oh, you're infringing on my rights. But tell that to the 10 people in Buffalo. Tell that to the 49 people that were killed at the church. Tell that to the 26 people, young kids that were killed in Sandy Hook. The 17 people that were killed in Parkland. Tell that to the mass shooting of these individuals that go on social media. Where was that? Illinois, I think it's the state, or Ohio. I don't remember, earlier this year in the march, where the woman posted what she was interested in. To talk about the church in I think it was Texas or California, that they spoke about that. So when people start talking about infringing on rights, what about infringing on life?
Yes. Yes. Your life matters.
Exactly.
There. Stop
Right. And that's
the
important.
violence. That's our cue. We started with violence. We're going to end on the note that please get out. Please get out and help out with these young folks and even some of the older ones in regards to the violence. Let's talk about it. Let's do something to keep them off the street and get people motivated in doing positive things and stay away from the violence. So, on that note, please enjoy your weekend. Have a safe and healthy weekend out there. Enjoy your family. And see you next week.
Yes. I just want to make sure I said a couple of happy birthdays. This is a big month, boy. I'm telling you, this Cancer month is massive,
It's
right?
okay. It's
A,
all right.
a couple of birthdays, some family members, right? A couple of birthdays to family members. I know my cousin Nadia, my little cousin, happy birthday to you. My auntie Faye had a birthday last week, this week actually. So happy birthday to her. And a few of my Facebook friends celebrate some birthday. Lady Glamity from the Domino World. Also looking forward to seeing everybody at the Domino session August 11th through 13th. Register online at www.worlddominoes.com. So I want to say any last happy birthdays before we close off, Dr. Barnes?
No, my daughter's birthday, my daughter and dad's coming up. So that's coming up. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for participating. We appreciate and value you. Be safe out there. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy your family and be safe.
All right. I just also want to say a big shout out to my cousin Annette, who was also a guest on the show on the release of her single. So if you next week we'll play it for you so you can hear a little bit of it. So she has a new single release. With that being said, thank you for watching, viewing, sharing, participating on the Village Radio Talk Show. Hosted by Roger Daly, co-host by John Sampson, co-host is Dr. Joanne Bryant, our executive producer, Andre Doman, and our producer, Sophia Willitsey. God bless each and every one of you. Please do enjoy your weekend. Make it a safe and good one. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. God bless.
Bye.